kind of a brief recap. So obviously there are many familiar faces here. So just do a quick 30-second summary in terms of what we're working on. So our team has been working on this what I consider the next generation calendar platform. So the summary of calendar right now, there are roughly around 2 billion active calendar users today on a monthly basis, right? And they largely divide across Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, and Microsoft Outlook. So the question is well, what problem are we really solving? Because it's pretty well understood, terminology. So the way we're thinking about it, I think there's a lot of hidden value to be extracted, right? Use case that can actually build on top of calendar. And then I had a very different conversation with some of what I consider the service industry thought leaders. One of them is actually we had the fortune to talk to about 2 months ago, right before Christmas, Andrew Chen. Some of you maybe don't know him. He was the former head of growth for Uber very early, and now he's the Andreessen Horowitz partner. So the conversation I had with him was a very short conversation, but there are some ideas that we're running through. Within a calendar context, what are some of the services actually relevant in a calendar format? One is obviously high value transactions. So let's say you're scheduling your monthly mortgage payment. Those are for the next 30 years, right? Can those contracts be one interface directly inside of your calendar? I think that's a pretty good use case. The actual contract information itself, could that be deposited and potentially in any one of the high performance or credible baseline protocols such as Harmony, right? And then once the stablecoin actually becomes more of a reality in let's say 2020 or beyond, then those transactions can directly be interfaced inside of the calendar. So those are kind of the high level philosophical ideas, right? But for the next 6 to 12 months, we're primarily focusing on developing this calendar. So what are some of the interesting features or things that were built into our calendar? One is really what I consider smart voting or smart consensus time collision. Because I think many of you guys will run through this, right? You want to schedule a meeting with someone. Typically takes about 7 messages back and forth. Next week when, Wednesday when. So you go back and forth, and if someone changes their schedule, then you gotta go through that whole cycle again. So I think there are some existing products out there that does a pretty decent job. Doodle being one of them. You do a polling. Calendly, those are some interesting ideas, but they're all primarily web-based. So what we're thinking about is we're mobile only. We're not even mobile first, we're mobile only. So building that feature directly into a mobile-friendly calendar, I think that's the first set of feature we'll build. The second thing is really interesting is more about bringing the World Wide Web, bringing the internet directly into the calendar. And what I mean by that is, within a calendar context, let's say you schedule a restaurant reservation. Why can't that reservation be done directly inside your calendar? Or the driving direction, or when to call this particular service provider. Those information could be directly pulled from the open web into the calendar. So that's something that we're building on as well. And right now we're talking to some of the Google development team to integrate Google Knowledge Graph and Google Location Services directly into the calendar. So that's the second feature we're building. And then third is probably in the next, I think probably in about 2 weeks, we should be design complete, meaning we'll have the full end-to-end, the A to Z user flow completely sketched up in pixel perfect sketch. So probably in about 2 weeks, I'll probably share some of that design. But I think it is a pretty radical departure from the traditional calendar look and feel. And that's something I'm personally very excited about. How to completely radically reimagine the user interface at a pixel level. And that's something that I think in totality, those 3 things should get us to, the May Google I/O launch. And then the goal for 2019 is 10 million users with 10 platform providers and 10,000 service providers. Once we have that, I think then the blockchain use cases will manifest itself. So I think the calibration I have in 2019 versus 2018 is I'm not chasing down the use cases anymore. I'm not chasing down how to try to fit blockchain into the context. It's basically build a product. I think some of the use cases will manifest itself. So we're pretty excited about it. This article probably won't go live. Originally, we were written 5 Medium articles. This is volume 2. For volume 1 actually went live last December. It was pretty well received. We got several thousand views. And the second article, we actually partnered with 2 of the previous Google Venture partners, Jake and John. They're the famous writer from Design Sprint. I don't know if you guys heard about that book, but pretty well known. So they wrote a second book called Make Time, and we actually collaborated with them, and then they helped us review the Medium article. And John and Jay-Z's feedback, these are actually all ex-colleagues. I know them when I was at Google. They both said, hey, articles are really well written, but why don't you actually release articles when you have the problem. So we're taking their advice. So we won't be releasing these 5 articles until probably May of this year. But the idea is basically we're also taking some of the productivity tips. For example, the 7 interesting productivity hacks. How to make time more valuable. There's various different books out there that teach you how to manage your time better. And we're taking some of these ideas and directly built into our calendar. So it's not just not a traditional calendar, but really a holistic time management tool that we're building. And that's what the second article is about. And hopefully, we'll in due time we'll release the articles and we'll get additional feedback and help to make our product better. So that's it.
So So for Z, hopefully it's not 10 million users, but 10 billion users.
For 2019, 10 million. That's kind of our goal. And then, like I said, the full intent is to get as many users. I'll give you the context. Within Google, there's 7 products right now that have more than 1 billion users. Search being one, YouTube, right? Gmail, Calendar, Android, Google Play. There aren't that many, and obviously the advertising network they have, right? So to cross that billion active users, that is a high bar, and that's something that Steve and I have been talking about. All joke aside, that is a kind of that to me is the ultimate success, the hallmark of a product, right? Whether the market validates you with the IP evaluation or the token valuation, that I think is secondary, but getting that billion active users, that's kind of the tone that I set with our team. We want to chase after that, and there are many product platforms out there that have the actual capability to absorb 1 billion active users. Slack, for example. Slack is very successful. There's no way they will ever get to 1 billion because there aren't that many productivity users out there that require Slack. So I think for Calendar, I I feel very fortunate to have this kind of a business insight to say, hey, let's go chase after something that most people would not consider sexy idea, right? Because Calendar it's been around for almost like 40 years. So we're pretty excited about that.
Do you have a beta or something you can test?
So we are getting our beta APK release March 15th. So by then, I'll reach out and we'll invite roughly around 100 closed beta testers, and then we'll start testing our feature. And then by April 18th, those are, by the way, the dates are seem arbitrary, but first one was my birthday, second one was my sister's birthday. So it sounds about like, wow, you're so precise about it. Just easier for me to remember. April 18th is my sister's birthday, and she's been leading a lot of UX design out of Atlanta, Georgia. That will be our first kind of what I consider like feature complete, relatively bug free, and then we're submitting that to the Google I/O team for code review. And if it all goes well, then we're launching on May 7th, which is the first day of Google I/O. That's kind of we're in the middle of a bomb run, and then we're basically just trying to be very focused in terms of making sure we hit those milestones. Yeah. Cool.
Having these days are not arbitrary. For Z to really sell these days, all the way to Google I/O, what push product launch ahead. Z, after almost 10 years, 9 years at Google, what he described of all these 1 billion users platform, Z work on Chrome and Android, being the creative director there, the first one in Asia, is really what we need to think about for startup to having a hard deadline. That's what Z is imposing on himself and the team. To think about hard deadline to work with partners, if not a launch day, it's very hard. Most crypto projects take longer time to launch because they don't have real partners, real users, real product. Is what most Android already figure out. Like no matter what happens, every year you need a new release to talk to the team. One last question for the creative director.
Your user engagement. So if I was to use Timeless, would I be using that embedded in, say, something like Google Calendar, or would it be a separate option?
That's a really good question. So I think for us, the K factor or the virality of the product is very important because your ambition is to get 1 billion. How do you get there, right? So in the previous conversation about 2 months ago, I talked about the underlying the time exchange protocol we're using is CalDev. I mean, we talk about protocols all the time. I'm just using an existing protocol called CalDev. That's kind of what unifies all the calendars. That's one of the reasons why if you're a Microsoft employee, you are able to send a Google employee a calendar, right? Because it all work, and it's been around for about 11 years now. So with that being said, if I'm the only timeless user in this room, and let's say April 18th I send out everyone invite, you should still see it. The only thing that you'll see is basically there might be a little tagline within the URI that says time to get timeless, and that's a link directly to the mobile application download. But if you choose to ignore it, that's fine. It still work. I can still schedule meetings with you. But hopefully, you know, of the 20, 30 plus people here, one of you actually will download it and it will propagate itself. So the virality is built into the protocol itself. And then I think the messaging, the interfacing, we're still in the early days of the design, but we're pretty mindful that the product to get to a billion, you're not going to spend your way to it, right? It needs to be good, it needs to be great, but that also has a component of propagating itself. Right? Cool.
Well, thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Yeah.